Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 12, The Alternate. After finding an archaeological site which may have some information about Odo's origin, Deep Space Nine is attacked by a monster.
Aw, Odo's not a monster. He's a good guy.
No, he's a monster. They're gonna put him in a zoo.
The worst of all fates.
It's worse than prison.
And death.
Okay, so what did you feel about this episode?
This is an episode I anticipated. Just the meeting of Odo's doctor and Odo. Because he's been mentioned before. And then they can show that, yes, they do have the same hair.
Yep.
As he's mentioned.
It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, I'm glad no one mentioned it and it's just there. That's nice. It was all right. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed it. It was something different. Odo is the monster. He has to track down himself. The toughest case to crack.
Yeah, except not really, because he didn't really do any investigation.
Yeah.
They had no leads in criminal terms. They had a few sciencey leads, but they didn't really go anywhere.
What did you think?
I think it's another one where the idea is nice, but the execution falls short a little.
Yeah.
One of the things that they've done in the past and was quite annoying in this episode is they left a whole load of plot threads unfinished. As soon as the Odo monster plot concludes, Dr. Mora just sort of says, well, I'm going now. Goodbye. What about the pillar? What about the life form they found?
Nope, gotta go.
Where did that planet? What?
I see the crew's continued habit of bringing aboard unknown objects still thrives.
Yeah, they really need to just make some rules about what they should take on board from the Gamma Quadrant, i.e. nothing, and what they shouldn't, i.e. everything.
Hey, there's a unique life form and a strange obelisk. Let's beam them aboard.
I was quite surprised they just beamed the pillar off the archaeological site. That's not very responsible archaeology.
Yeah, totally tampering with the site.
Yeah, that whole scene was kind of stupid anyway. The ruins collapse so easily. Yeah, 2 seconds ago, before they beamed down, they said, "Oh, there's a lot of seismological activity, i.e., earthquakes." So it's weathered however many thousands of years of earthquakes. Yet it falls to bits when it gets a bit rumbly.
It's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, it seemed like a booby trap. Like if you teleport the pillar away,
yeah,
you get gas in the face.
That classic booby trap.
Yeah, you don't actually need to secure things that are made of solid stone.
It was a forward-thinking ancient people.
What, that had a serious problem with people nicking massive stone obelisks?
Yes, they don't want anyone to tamper with their belongings, including immovable stone objects.
Well, if you want to protect a massive stone pillar, what you need to do is turn up about once a week and check that no one's in the process of stealing it, because it's unlikely they'd be able to steal it in under a week.
That's too much work. You might as well set a booby trap and fill the area with strange gas.
Oh yeah, in case someone teleports it away.
Exactly.
In which case they could just teleport away from the gas, which is what they did.
Not in time.
Well, yes, in time, because they all lived.
But Odo became Monster Odo.
Yeah, so if we actually found out if that planet had anything to do with the changelings, it would be that explanation for the gas doing that would have some meaning.
Except we didn't, so it doesn't.
Yeah, we don't know if that pillar was some sacred changeling object with booby traps designed to foil changelings mucking about with it, or if that was just an unrelated random side effect. Who knows? I think they wasted the idea of having Odo track down himself. I don't think it was used well.
After the reveal, I thought, oh, that's a really great idea to have Odo track Odo down, but this is not done well.
Yeah, and now they can't use this idea again.
Why not? They've reused ideas before.
Well, not so distinctly.
He can grunt and say, I can't believe I'm tracking myself down again.
I commit more crimes than anyone.
He did say there are always unsolved crimes.
Yes.
Those all could be Odo crimes.
Yeah, but he didn't say of what nature. What if they were all fraud or something? He was getting angry. Like, no, I really don't think that I was doing monster fraud.
He could... We don't know the nature of his bucket time. Maybe he can do the equivalent of sleepwalking, so he does fraud in his sleep state.
That's unlikely.
Sure, but bring about those gambling toys and it makes it more likely.
No, don't mention the whiz balls.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They were pretty casual about killing that unique life form. Oh, it's dead. Oh well.
Yeah. And that really was the life form, wasn't it? They kind of went back and forth a little bit, but that was really it. It got zapped in a pipe.
Yeah, and it got dead.
Silly that they send O'Brien in, the most vital person in the entire station, to find it when they don't know what it is. Like it could have destroyed the entire lab, so let's just send our one vital crew member to track it down alone without any weapons.
I bet he volunteered. If you run into my wife, don't mention I did this.
Like, he just went off into the vents to find it, and then after a few minutes, he was like, oh, I should probably report in and tell them what I'm doing.
Yeah, he just went out on his own.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. O'Brien is a tough cookie. It was a nice deflection of the alien trope with one person in a vent or narrow corridor being scanned by someone else, and you can see the dot moving along the radar.
Yeah.
It very much made me think there would be a monster there and not just goop.
I was expecting a monster.
Yeah, it's a nice way to subvert people's expectations. Let's talk about special effects.
And how bad they are.
Yeah, there was 3 main effects in this episode. One was the little life form, which was iron filings with a magnet underneath.
That looked cool.
It actually looked decent. I mean, if you know what it is, it's kind of silly, but it still looks reasonable. And for $5 or something, it's good value for money on new special effect. Then there was the Odo goop monster. That didn't look great, but we can.
It was thankfully brief, though.
Yeah, it was used well. The effect was bad, but that's probably because of how dated the series is. And the other main special effect shot was the Bashir tentacle scene.
Oh, when you were talking about Odo, were you talking about when he was in the security office, or when he was the yellow man punching the force field?
Yeah, the yellow man, cloudy guy. When he was in security, that wasn't a special effect shot. That was just makeup.
No, there was a quick shot of his hands.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the same effect. Looked a bit weird. It's hard to criticize something from the mid-90s for lack of CGI quality, because it was really in its infancy at that point.
Obviously, it's going to look dated 20 years later.
Yeah. It still looked better than the tentacle that fiddled with Bashir.
Yeah. It was a good idea to focus on Bashir's face when he was lasering it instead of looking at the monster, because that didn't look good.
It's the classic rule of horror. You never show the monster, because as soon as you show the monster, the person watching will think, oh, I thought it would be way worse than that.
Yeah, the imagination can conjure up some nasty things.
Yeah, although they took it to an extreme in this one by literally not even turning the camera towards the direction where it should be. You know, you could see it in the shadows or something. That could have worked, but maybe that was too much effort. So instead, it just had Bashir and someone slapping him with a big rubber tentacle.
I was bothered by Bashir being pleased with his persistent sexual harassment of Dax.
Was he pleased? Oh, yeah, he said, oh, well, one day I'll stop chasing you, then we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's going to be very... I don't think that would go well for him.
It shouldn't. She said no. And if they ended up together, that would send a bad message. If a girl tells you in very clear terms, no, well, then you should just be persistent and annoying anyway.
Yeah, Dex ain't gonna tap that. As weird and dodgy as Bashir is, he's still not as weird and dodgy as he started out.
Yeah, agreed. He started out awful. But it's good they've incorporated aspects of his old character into what he is now, because it wouldn't make sense to completely abandon who he was before, even though the character wasn't working. And so they've rolled that into a more palatable version of Bashir.
Yeah, he's getting there. He needs just to have some time in space, see some things, live through some stuff. You know, life experiences. I think he'll grow up to be A-okay.
That's not fair. You know what happens.
Oh, talking of knowing what happens, there is a conversation in this episode which I want to discuss, but can't without basically revealing an extremely minor spoiler.
Shall we save it then?
It's so minor, it doesn't...
Let's live dangerously. Just out with it.
Okay, so Cisco talks about his dad.
When my father became ill, I can remember how small and weak he looked there lying on the bed. He'd been so strong, so independent. It always seemed to me that there was nothing that he couldn't do. But in the end, I realized there was nothing that he could do, and nothing I could do to help him.
That's correct.
What was your impression of that?
It was so brief, it didn't leave an impression. I don't remember at all.
He says that his father was sick.
Oh, when he's speaking with Odo and he makes the assumption that Odo sees the doctor as a father. Yes, yeah. Okay.
Didn't he kind of imply that his father had died?
Yeah, that's what I took away from that.
His father isn't dead. He shows up eventually. I can't even remember when, but when I was watching it or re-watching it, I was just sitting there thinking, what is he making this up?
Yeah, maybe he made it up to console Odo.
That's not a very good lie to tell to an investigator with a perfect memory.
That would be great if Odo brought it up when Cisco's dad showed up. Excuse me, Commander.
He said your dad was dead.
He said... Yes.
Cisco's dad would be like,
About that.
Going back to Bashir, there was a very subtle indication of him violating medical ethics once again.
Oh, I missed it this time. What was it?
When Dax is in the lab and they say, "Oh, how come you're out and about already?" She says that Dr. Bashir hid her clothes and she had to sneak back to her room to get a uniform.
In an ill-fitting gown.
Yeah. Hiding a patient's clothes is wrong.
Yes, it is.
It's absolutely wrong. A patient can refuse or end treatment at any point they want. Doctor can advise the patient, "Oh, you probably don't want to do that," but if the patient says, "No, I'm going," then absolutely the doctor should let them go and not hide their clothes.
And then Cisco was unperturbed by this news.
That Dr. Bashir, he's always up to these vaguely perverted hijinks.
I don't even know if it's vaguely. Thinly veiled, perverted, sexy hijinks. I'm not sure why I threw sexy in there.
It's not really sexy.
No.
Maybe it is for Bashir. I don't want to think about that. I wonder if there's an episode where they all get lost in Bashir's mind. Like being John Malkovich, except just being Bashir.
And then it's a total nightmare.
It's just the worst.
Freud would have a field day.
Yeah, that would be an episode they'd never talk about again.
Just phallic imagery everywhere.
I don't even want to know. It would be scarier than having to fight the monster in this episode. Okay, I have only one more thing in my notes that I want to address.
Go for it.
Dr. Dr. Mora says about the pillar, has the computer had any luck decoding the encryptions? What? Does he mean inscriptions?
I didn't catch that. Nice.
Yeah, encryptions are totally different. And if you can't read it, you can't even say they're encrypted. So that was a little script mess there. Shame on them.
Yeah, how dare they? Making minor flubs.
Yeah, God. I was completely ripped out of it. My immersion was ruined. I flipped my desk over, took the DVD out of the drive, threw it across the room, and burned my house down.
I'm sorry all of that happened.
Yes, it's been quite a weekend. I kept thinking this episode had Spielberg levels of dad angst.
Oh gosh, so much dad angst.
It would be Spielberg's favorite episode.
Classic parenting mistake of trying to live through your child and your child's accomplishments.
Yeah, they never really said what else he had done. That could have fleshed out his character a little, other than just seeming like a guy who's riding on Odo's coattails.
That's all I got out of it. And then the moral is, if your parents don't listen to you, turn into a threatening blob to get their attention.
Hey, it worked for Dan from my high school.
I guess I shouldn't knock it until I try it.
I don't know anyone called Dan.
I should have seen right through that. No one knows a Dan.
They do exist.
No, that's an old wives' tale.
Completely changing subject. Do you have a special quote?
I prescribe rest because it's hard for a doctor to go wrong with that one.
You finally picked up on the fact that Bashir only ever prescribes rest. He's been doing it for a season and a half, and I've not mentioned it. That's the only thing he ever prescribes.
And this is an acknowledgement of that, I think, and it's pretty funny.
I don't know if they'd even use the word prescribe, because every medical problem is solved on location almost instantly.
Yeah.
It's never said, take these pills 2 a day for the next 2 weeks. They never have a prescription afterwards, so I don't know if the word prescribe would have common usage.
They don't even know. It hits everyone's ears awkwardly. It made me smile because the last time I went to see a doctor, he told me to get plenty of rest. I had a sprained ankle.
Yeah, I don't know how useful that is because people often rest as much as is comfortable.
Right. I was already trying to rest when I wasn't doing things that needed to be done.
Yeah, you can't just turn off your responsibilities. I guess, I mean, there are some people that will go crazy and just, like, they like to run or something, and then their leg will fall off and they'll say, well, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to run 10 miles a day, regardless of my injury. But most people, I think, when their leg or arm goes dicky, they will just sort of naturally not use it. So I always think it's cheap when doctors give you that as if it's sage advice.
Yeah, as if you didn't think of it or weren't already doing it.
Yeah, then you protest. Well, I am. I'm not using my leg as that much. And they say, well, don't use it at all. It's like, oh, I've got things I need to do. Sorry, did that just get a bit real?
That's okay. It's in your nature.
Oh.
Well, I want to mention that I like that line. Odo uses it. It's not in my nature. But I liked it because he's trying to convince himself. He's not trying to convince someone else. So he's just asserting or trying to assert who he is. And it worked well for me.
It's odd that Odo didn't agree it was him. It's rare that he gets so emotional about a case.
His emotions were heightened because Daddy was in proximity.
Okay, Odo confirmed for Daddy complex.
Yes.
Well then, I think this is a wrap.
Yes, it is.
All right.